Most obvious things we see in the environment are examples of something extremely large removing the tops of trees. These are date palms, and there were several in this particular section of the forest. We also found one tree in particular that was snapped in half, and the other half of it was thrown 60 feet away. There were no marks or explanation for how that got into the middle of this prairie.
Dozen yards from the perimeter of this tree line, you can see
it was as if it fell from the sky.
We've got the top of an enormous pine tree out here. How much do you think it weighs?
Interesting spot right there with no bark.
200? 200 pounds probably, somewhere in that neighborhood. And it's traveled considerable distances because the broken pine trees are all in the perimeter there. So, interesting, man. Especially since right there,
we know it didn't grow here. Pine trees won't grow.
That's exactly what it looks like.
Along with these two, to the left of these two, there was this one here on the side. Further down, there's another one, and then past that, there's another one, all in this 1 acre area. And then there were the pines. The pines that we noticed had damage. The damage was localized to the burned trees, and we're dealing with wetland pines, and they need fire to release the seeds from the pine cones. Curiously, we found no pine cones in this entire area, and again, only the burned trees were broken in half. The tree damage in the area was easily followed, and that led to tracks, which led to little shooting segments where we were picking up on the phenomenon in the tree line, which led to footage. We think, based on the culmination of about 40 different experiences and what we've seen with our own two eyes, that it's real. That thing is in there. And it's enormous. What does all that mean? Further study is needed, is what we know. And so we'll continue.
So what we got is ultimate destruction, and you can see where something huge came through here, tearing the trees off. And then here's a bunch of ground brush where the trees were torn off, and then whatever came through here just flattened these trees. I mean, this little thicket brush right here is completely flattened down in the same track as that.
So as soon as we get to the edge, like where it opens up to this grass from the canopy, the pine trees and the other creek bed, there's a little beautiful little yellow finch. Looked like he was like fresh killed, wasn't stiff, didn't have ants on him. Little yellow bird laying right there in the middle of the path. And my daughter kind of like, ah, and I was like, well, where'd that come from? You know, we just walked through here. I know this wasn't here before. So she felt bad, and my other daughter was kind of crying, you know, whimpering, holding my leg, poor birdie, and whatever. So we ended up, I dug a little hole with my little shovel I carry. We buried the bird. I've got some little pieces of pine branches, made a little cross with some twine. We stuck it in there, and they wanted to say a little prayer for the birdie. As soon as the prayer was done, we were done and we were walking away. Something just went crashing through the trees, just crashing through. Like my daughter, my little daughter didn't really understand what was going on, but my older daughter, she like jumped and turned away. She's like, what was that, Daddy? What was that? And I go, what do you think it was? So someone wasn't happy we just buried their gift. It just dawned on me when I was saying it, like. And me and my daughter pull up one day. We're like, oh, look, someone left a cooler. So we walk over there, and all their food was in there, like a full loaf of white bread, brand new peanut butter, brand new jelly, like brand new food was all in there. And it was just like left there abandoned. There's little things of alcohol. Some were drank, some weren't. And they were thrown in the grass, and some were still laying there in the cooler. There was 2 pillows, 1 sleeping bag, a blanket, and it was all just left there abandoned. I'll send you pictures so you can have all the pictures of it. All abandoned. And me and my daughter started finding these little stones in the parking lot over there. There's like perfect little round manicured stones that look like they've been tumbled almost. And we found like 13 or 14 of them in the vicinity of the cement pad of the pavilion. But outside we found even more stones, like along with their garbage, as we were picking everything up. And so I'm like, you know, while we're here, let's take a little gander out beyond the fence line. And we go out beyond the fence line after we recorded all that. And I found, I'll send Mark the picture also. It's a perfect impression of like an 8-foot dude laying there. Like perfect legs with a V in it. It was like a chalk outline, like someone died right there. It was like so perfect. It was hard to like fathom, like, what the hell? Like it's a perfect impression of an 8-foot dude. And we got a campsite that looks abandoned. It looks like someone got out here in a hurry, left all their stuff. I mean, it had to be $50 worth of stuff laying there at least, you know. Like it was all new, like they went to Walmart to plan this little thing out. And
What do you think? Was he laying in the grass out there, tossing rocks in the dark?
Collecting some rocks, and he was laying in the grass having a good time. Watch these idiots. I'm gonna scare them out of here.
An 8-footer, huh?
At least. I mean, the impression was just like, yeah, it was almost cartoonish. It was so perfect.
That's amazing.
It was like, how the hell could this like be real right now?
It's amazing. I was looking this way, and out of my peripheral, there was like a shimmer. And
Yep.
right after that is when Mark said he got hit.
Yep, and I was standing this way talking to her, and so I turned and saw it this way, what she saw going that way.
Yeah.
And I just remember for it, like I thought it was a reflection off my glasses, or I wasn't, you know, I didn't think to even pay
I saw it was
attention
more
to
like a light, because it was like streaming
Yeah.
Just got
down.
whacked.
So
I just
you
got
think
whacked.
it was that
We
plane
all
up
witnessed
there,
it,
or
and
what?
now the camera's not working.
Is it the plane doing it?
Okay.
There's a black shadow right here.
Okay.
There's a black shadow right here.
Oh, what you got?
Right here in front of me. Right in front of me.
Line of sight. Watch that Putin almost stepping.
So right here, it appears that he has his hand up in front of his face. You can see fingers inside the little circle there. So that's his head. You can see both of his eyes there and his nose.
Tell me when you're set up and I'll move. It's just like right in front of me.
Let me take a look, Mel.
300, 400, 500 years, who knows? Yeah. But I try to imagine walking through the environment with those creatures in it and how they would camouflage themselves. And so I think it's necessary for us to familiarize ourselves with any cover that droops and hangs like dreadlocked hair from the treetops. Because we would be walking through the environment. The only way these creatures could hide would be down on the ground inside some very large saw palmettos, because that's really the only cover in that particular environment that's around that can conceal them. The ground brush, they have to be on the ground. But if standing, and I think this is a possibility, because when traversing their area, we may trigger them to come up and take a look. So what does that look like? We have to prepare ourselves for that, because in all likelihood, we're going to walk into the same area that we caught them in. And if we do that, I think we have a chance of catching them on film, you know. I mean, this has never been done to my knowledge by anybody that I've ever heard of, and I'm obviously apprehensive about the whole expedition, but I think it needs to be done. So, yeah, I think anything that hangs, like the Spanish moss, look where you see the Spanish moss, because sometimes it might not be Spanish moss hanging from a tree. It might be like, you know, this dude's hair looks like Spanish moss, and that's not a tree. That's actually his, like, side of his body or something. You know what I mean? Because they blend so well. So we need to be prepared for that it's going to be like looking up at this tree.
Yeah, I didn't sleep so good.
Yeah, you got a lot in your mind, brother.
Yeah. All right. Oh. Where is he? It looks like it's still there, whatever it is. I don't know what it is, but we just came from down in that area about 15 minutes ago. I made a few calls while I was down there. You can't see over that brush. It's 5 feet over your head, 6 feet over your head. So those are creatures that we caught in that film. They're enormous. You ready, Sean?
Yep.
What do you think?
Oh, I definitely think we got some good shots. The topography's definitely changed with the foliage. I'm not sure if it's a time of year thing or if the creatures have changed the topography themselves. There's definitely a lot more full and thicker in those corners of those areas. But hopefully get the footage back there and do some comparisons, do some measurements, try and get some size comparisons on these creatures. I think pretty surely, with as many videos as we took, we caught some creatures hiding.
Yeah, I think so too. You ready to get out of here and go home?
Back there and review the footage.
All right, let's do it.
Check out the data.
All right, so we're heading out, and we're taking the same exact route that we took the way in. And you want to do that every time in your research area, man. You want to do that. Take the same route in, same route out. As long as it's not a gator area, you'll be fine. The creatures get used to it and they'll line up along the route you take eventually. You'll see. Just keep going. There's a reason. See that long straightaway? They can see from that little fucking tree area, and I caught them on film right there before.
So Sean was about 20 feet to my left and behind me while I was shooting this creature. And just watching, this raw footage, I've cropped it and adjusted some of the exposure to eliminate the glare so that we can actually get a good look at them. And it's still difficult if you don't understand what these creatures look like to recognize that there's even anything there. It took us a long time to familiarize and begin the process of cognition that we were even being watched. The creature's behavior in their environments and habitat is so subtle. It's predatory, is what it is. It's ambush predator behavior. With this size, with this speed, with this power, and this camouflage, we need further study. Having encountered these probably exact creatures on multiple occasions, having researched in this area for a while now, and knowing what Brian's been through in here, and having talked to the hunters that come in and out of here, this is a very interesting area. And the longer we study here, the more solid the conclusions about what is in fact going on in this wildlife management area are getting. And as hard as a lot of these conclusions may be for people to swallow, they better get used to them, because the persistence of this data is incredible. Thanks for watching. Please like the videos and subscribe if you want to help us out on Patreon. Literally, you'll be funding the next film we make. So join us at Crypto Reality on Patreon. Fund the next expedition. Looking at a piece of the clip with the colorless guy here in it, and this is interesting to note. I want you to pay attention to this distortion that is shot wide. Watch this. You can see there's a certain amount of distortion, right? We think that's electromagnetic. That's very common in the footage that we're getting interfered on. Though in this footage, from a distance, it does not appear on camera to be the case. It appears quite clear. This is the actual shot. The creature's right here. You can take screenshots. I'll, check it out yourself. I mean, you can see this guy's right there, but and zoom in yourself. But in looking at it, it does appear that there is some interference in the footage. And in certain sections of the footage, it appears to get worse. And it's interesting because this phenomenon has happened to us on many occasions. You can see that creature is right here, man. And its nose is in this area. This is going to be where its mouth is. This is not your typical looking Sasquatch. These are the creatures we've been studying. They appear to be adapted to the swamp, is what I'll say. Obviously adapted to blending in, right? You can see that just from the footage. I mean, you're getting shots in here where you can see right here is the eye. If you watch this in between frames, he's looking left. He's really looking at my hiking companions, Melanie and Sean. He's looking at Melanie and Sean. I'm filming. I'm moving into the prairie. He looks at me. This is one frame later. So what kind of movements, how fast is that? It's blink of the eye kind of stuff. One frame is I'm shooting 60 frames per second, so it's 1/60th of a second. This guy's eyes are moving in 1/60th of a second. They're flipping back and forth immensely quick. This thing's processing data. exponentially faster. Just off watching its eye movement in 1/160th of a second, and how you can see right in here, this eye looks further to the right and then back center. You can see it. It's literally doing that, and those are actually 3 frames, so 3/160th of a second. What are these things? Look at the capabilities it has for blending in. The background in this area is being altered by bright white creatures standing in it in key spots, and I think they're intelligent enough to understand what's going on. This is a great frame because you can see the other side of this thing's nose. The other eye is visible right here, and then this one. He has his head tilted, so his head is, that point is going to be on an angle, and you can see some of it right here actually. But the shade from this tree is so pronounced. The light that we can't see being diffused is so pronounced that it literally is only shading this part of it, and the sun has to be open where this is, and we're getting finally a pretty clear look at one of these. It actually appears to be reptilian mixed with primate. This eye thing that we're pointing out here, where this thing's looking around like this, that's a little bit too much independent musculature for any of the primates that I'm aware of. Or any of the hominid classifications that we're aware of. I mean, what do we know about them? Is, I guess now we're gonna have to start asking, what do we really know about what they dug out of the ground versus what we're seeing in reality? Or is this something we dug out of the ground already? Do we already have this guy? And forensic reconstructions with evolutionary bias involved, making them look a little more human than they actually are? Is that what's going on? Are we seeing what's been dug out of the ground still running around out there? Or is this a completely incipient species? It's brand new. We don't know anything about it. Is it a direct result of hybridization? There's so many questions. Where does this thing come from? Obviously, people haven't been reporting this blending in thing as much as what we've been documenting. I mean, I wait for these reports, and while we do hear them from time to time, I don't think these creatures get seen very often at all. I think, we're going to go in the field and look at this enormous sasquatch, man, with this huge upper lip. I mean, watch this. Look at this thing. Hello. 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 Look at this thing's eyes, man. You got a perfect view. That's not all. We've got some really interesting stuff going on here, as you can see. We got a dude in there. He's enormous. There's a couple of them probably, but we're really only working on him right now, and trying to see where he leads, because he might lead to some better footage. You can see he's moving his whole deal in there, and he's independent of the bush. That part make note of, and then we've got the ball of the eye visible, the entire nose almost, pretty much. I mean, you can see the hole on the other side there if you look. But there's some creatures with him. I'm pretty sure we're getting all this, but you can see that there's something going on that's not right.